On the CHGO Cubs Podcast, the Bregman fallout. What happens next? Where do they pivot? Was it a blessing? And the questionable strategy from the top on down. We'll have you seeing stars like PCA's hair next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's a CHGO Cubs podcast. It is Thursday, the 13th. The snow has settled, and so has Bregman Watch 2025. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody, Delmendo, and Sean Anderson running the ones and twos for us. See, the live YouTube chat is up and burning today because everybody's got an opinion about this Alex Brgman signing with the Boston Red Sox. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. Best way to enjoy what we do is to get in that chat and be part of the show with us.
Send a super chat. We'll definitely read it.
And thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up on the way in. I see 9 of you have done it already.
Please like the video. I know a lot of people. Some people might be a little angry. I see Godfather's comments like, don't hit the down, like don't thumbs down us because of maybe you're upset about this result. At least hit the thumbs up for us, you know. And
as Shane points out, sickos unite.
Sickos unite.
Here we are.
Of course, we get a thumbs down the moment I say that.
And of course, not about it.
Thank you guys. Never change.
Hey, the news came on the 13th, so that's lucky.
Well, at least it wasn't a Friday, Luke.
That's right. Here's the deal. Bregman, 3 for 120. There's deferrals and an opt-out after each season in Boston. So we'll break it all down with the deferrals and stuff. But in general, it's a $40 million a year
for 1 year.
For 1 year,
because he could opt out next year.
He could opt out
after the season. Yeah.
And I know there's a signing bonus, and I know there's deferrals, and if you're talking about it at just $40 million a year for Alex Brgman, if this year the Cubs were going to pay Alex Brgman $40 million, I'm out. So I'm glad their offer wasn't. The Cubs had the worst offer of the three, right? The Tigers go 3 for 120 with the opt-outs. The Tigers then went 6.
You mean the Red Sox?
The Red Sox, rather.
Yeah.
The Tigers went 6 years, $171.5 million. So their AAV is the same as the Cubs offer, depending on who you hear it from. Passan is still sticking with 4 for 120. Bruce Levine says actually it was 4 for 115. Either way, the Cubs offer to Alex Brgman was less in AAV, and it was less in years than the Tigers deal.
Yeah.
So the only thing they were offering was the Cubs. We kind of said all along, Cody, over the last couple of weeks, as this started to get more and more somewhat realistic, because I thought it was a total pipe dream back in the day.
We all did. Or me and you both did.
Right.
A month and a half ago.
But you pointed out at the very beginning that the longer it goes, the more likely it is he's going to have to take one of these shorter deals. He did have to take one. Now, I never expected a team to go, yeah, we'll give you $40 million.
Yeah.
Deferred or not, we'll give you $40 million. We'll get into the Cubs' philosophy on that in a second, but I think that they're fairly lucky. We got a super chat, $2 from Carter Hawkins. Not spending belly money, biblical profits. See, I knew that was coming too.
Yeah. We're breaking even here in 2025.
So they tried to spend some of that money, but they offered the lowest of the 3 teams left. But I don't hate it because the player wasn't worth it in my eyes.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. While I am mostly with you, would I have given Alex Brgman $40 million to play for the Cubs in 2025? Do I think he's worth that? No. But how many times we sit here and we talk about other players on other teams who are overpaid? Mm-hmm. But you know what they do? Those players are more likely than not increasing that team's floor because they probably have a slew of young players who are perhaps obviously cheap, but quote unquote the core of that team that, again, those teams needed a guy who could potentially put them over the top. So, do I think that Alex Brgman would have made the Cubs better next season?
Yes.
Yes. Do I think that Alex Brgman's worth $40 million for 1 year? No. But, as again, playing devil's advocate, it's not my money. That said, we all know that the first-tier luxury tax is basically a cap for the Cubs. And $40 million, they couldn't do it. I guess they could have deferred money, but like I said, or like you said, we're going to talk about that philosophy, I guess. They don't want to do deferrals. I don't know who I should blame on that. I guess I should blame Tom on that because that's basically what Jed Hoyer said, that they talked to Tom and Laura and all these things about deferrals. So, in general, I can't blame Jed Hoyer for not getting this done because I liked the deal that the Cubs offered. Not only was it 4 for $120 or 4 for $115, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He was going to be here for 2 years if he had chosen the Cubs because there wasn't an opt-out until after 2026, which made so much sense for the Cubs with all the money coming off the books. But, he took the more money for 1 year, and I don't necessarily blame him. That's what all the players normally do. My thing here is that two things are true. He's not worth $40 million, but also, the team isn't better without him. Sure, we're going to see Matt Shaw. Sure, projections love him, or at least think he can be a valuable player. He'll be better than what the Cubs put at third base last year. So perhaps the team will still be good, but you would have increased the floor with Alex Brgman on the team. So that's why I'm saying, am I playing devil's advocate or am I just speaking facts? For 1 year, would I have paid Alex Brgman $40 million? If I'm the owner of the team, Luke, if I am operating the team myself, I would have paid him because if you have Kyle Tucker guaranteed for 1 year, fine. Let's do whatever we can. But the way this team is operating, this ownership group is operating, forcing Jed to use the first-tier luxury tax as a cap. But for some reason, when we get to the end of July, that's if we're in it, they'll go over it, they'll blow past it. Then it's incredibly annoying. It's incredibly annoying. But Jed Hoyer has to do what Jed Hoyer has to do and what he's allowed to do. So I'm not blaming Jed. I'm just frustrated with how ownership has basically operated for the last 5-6 years. And I gave them a pass during the beginning of this rebuild. But we have a 2-year window here based off the contracts that are on this team. And it's like, why are we not, I'm not necessarily saying pushing all our chips in. I'm just saying, why aren't we trying to go the extra mile like Godfather said in the chat? Why are we not doing that? I'm not mad that they didn't get Alex Brgman. I'm frustrated that they're not doing whatever it takes to make sure this team will absolutely be a playoff team in 2025. And I'm still optimistic about this team going into 2025. I still feel optimistic about them winning the division. But if you added Bregman, you certainly make yourselves more of a lock to do so. Instead, now we have to ride the roller coaster of Matt Shaw playing third base next year, and we'll see what happens. It could go great. It could go bad. I don't know which one to expect. I'm expecting a little bit of both. I'm expecting a roller coaster, all right?
It sounds like it was really a two-team battle for Alex Brgman. The Cubs were never going to make an offer like the Tigers did, 6 for $171.
Right.
Okay? And I wouldn't want them to. I wouldn't want 6 years potentially of Alex Brgman getting stuck in your roster. So I'm okay with that part. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Both things are true. You can be angry that the Cubs aren't willing to just blow by the luxury tax and make this team an unquestionable super favorite to win the division and go to the postseason. Now, they still may be a favorite, but they're not like over the top because there's questions, and this would have raised their floor. But you also, at some point, have to live in Jed Hoyer's world, which is reality, right? And so while you and I are sitting here thinking, man, why doesn't management at CHGO put us in a loft over the top of Sloan Park for the next month, watching every game in the sun, doing all this? We also live in a reality. There are budgets from the top on down. So I think the bigger thing that I'm more concerned about this, because again, I think Bregman has flaws. You're the guy that's the wrong side of 30, whose numbers came down last year and was playing at a ballpark where left field has a short porch. That increased his numbers, right? He didn't have to deal with the wind blowing in at Wrigley Field. Also boosts his numbers a little bit. He had it sometimes trash cans being banged while he was trying to hit the ball. Also elevated his numbers a little bit. So while I still like the player, and he won a Gold Glove there last year, there are signs that things aren't going to be great.
Right.
So for me, $40 million, or even Buster Olney now saying, like, listen, with the deferrals, it's really a $90 million deal at the moment. But now's when you factor in what was being said, and Paul Sullivan had a quote about it, and then Bruce Levine also quoted Jed Hoyer about it. Sully basically saying in a quote from Jed Hoyer that we're really not into deferrals, haven't been into deferrals. And then Bruce, it's ultimately, I feel like we made a fair offer. This is from Sully's Twitter account. Most of the time in free agency, the player goes to the highest bid, which they did not have. Philosophically, deferrals are something we've avoided. Now, Bruce took it one step further and said the Cubs are not going to be doing it moving forward. Tom Ricketts doesn't like the dead money deal. They're still paying money to Lester. They're still paying money to Hayward.
Which I did not realize, by the way.
Okay, so he doesn't like the deferral thing. Now, the thing that I question about this, and we'll get to Gary Ross's super chat in a second, is, number one, it seems to me that deferrals are helping the team.
Yeah.
It's team-friendly for a deferral, is it not? I don't see what the negative to a deferral. I know he doesn't want the dead money, but this is clearly the way big money contracts, they've always done it, but now more and more of it's happening. And you're starting to hear players being willing to take it because they know how tight it is, and the TV deals aren't the same, so they're doing it to help the team so they can build a better team. So it's curious to me why they don't want to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because that seems like it's part of the game at this point.
Sure.
Gary had a super chat for us. $9.99 throwing around. Now, see, maybe the Cubs aren't throwing around the big bucks, but Gary is today. Per presser today, the first cap is not their budget. Yeah, because I can't see it. Can you or make it bigger? One of the two.
I can't really make it bigger because then
you just did.
I guess it would be the size of the screen. Per presser today, the first cap is not their budget, and it's much lower. Sounds like the budget is around $215 million, as Jed said. He was going over budget to sign Bregman. What are we doing here?
Well, that's, we're going to get to that in this the next block here, is that they're basically saying, listen, that money was for Bregman only.
Yeah.
We're not going to be a big spender on somebody else.
Does that mean that Justin Turner is not an option now?
I don't know that he'd be the big spend, so I think we can still discuss him. But it basically sounds like,
well, they're not going to pay Justin Turner $30 million, but they're well under that first-tier luxury tax.
It's also irrelevant anyways in that, at least via free agency, if you were looking at it, Bregman was the biggest player left on the market.
Yeah.
So I guess you're not going to add up a bunch of other pieces. They talk about doing some smaller things. I sort of have a problem here with this philosophy of not doing deferrals.
I think you are resonating with a lot of people because I'm with you. Like, the reason the Red Sox were able to do it was because of the deferrals, right?
Correct.
So in my head, they wanted that comp pick back for Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta signed with the Padres last night, 4 years, $55 million. We'll talk about that and maybe the Cubs and Padres trade stuff towards the end of the show probably, right? And I believe that means that the Red Sox got a comp pick back because he had the qualifying offer attached to him, right? So as we've talked about, Bregman, you had to give away 2 comp picks to sign Bregman, you have to give those to the Astros, right? So one of those are going to go to the Astros, and I'm sure be based off how the Red Sox have been operating since the moment they let Mookie Betts walk, or I guess traded him, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, I feel like they were waiting to up the offer. They were waiting for Pivetta to sign somewhere. Tinfoil hat theory, right? But the whole, like, the fact that they offered the $40 million, that came out of nowhere. And that's why I believe this. So I think the deferrals are a big part. I do think that the comp picks have some part to do with that. I can't be mad at Jed Hoyer about how this went down. I can't.
I would agree that this one is not Jed Hoyer's fault. And in hindsight, when it's all said and done, it may turn out to be a blessing that this deal didn't get done. Because to me, 28.5's pretty strong offer to Alex Brgman moving forward when your best prospect also plays third base. We're just touching the surface of this stuff with the Alex Brgman signing. We're going to signing with the Red Sox. We're going to talk about more of it, what it means, where they pivot to next, how do they pivot, and all of that coming up in a second. But first, a word from our sponsors. Hooters is an experience like no other, based on years of hard work. Great place to watch games, from the original wings, I also love the honey barbecue, to the chicken tenders, delicious, to the mahi fish tacos, trust me, legit. Every Tuesday in February right now through the 25th, your wing cravings can make a difference. Hooters is donating a portion of chicken wing sales to Holy Family Schools, helping fund tuition, books, classroom supplies, and more for kids in under-resourced communities. With the support of our Chicagoland Hooters family, they have raised over $1 million since 1992. So let's keep it going, because kids can't fly without wings. So cheer on your favorite teams from any of their 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations. They have them in O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, Downers Grove, downtown, you name it. You can even order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com.
I love me some Hooters. You know what else I love? Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
Love Lucy. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy Breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door, my friends. All right? Level up with your nicotine routine with Lucy. I think what's awesome about Lucy is that it can be just delivered straight to your door, right? I'm not big on smoking, haven't been. My entire family has my entire life. I somehow did not, right?
Good.
Which is good, but there's things like Lucy that help. Right. It's better for you in the circumstance.
Little kick when you go to the gym, maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps on the drive, you know. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/CHGO and use promo code CHGO2025 and get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use code CHGO2025 to get 20% off. And here comes the fine print, Luke, right? Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. So,
Alex Brgman, 3 for 120, okay? We will pivot to what's next. But, I mean, I think the key is what Jed Hoyer had to say this morning. This is via Twitter page of Marquee. Their cameras were there. And, by the way, the 360 show they do is really good in the afternoon. It's a good recap of what's going on with the Cubs. And this is what Jed Hoyer had to say after missing out and having the third best offer to Alex Brgman.
I think we're always looking. I think that, like I said, I think we're, the things we're going to be doing now are going to be, probably small things financially. So I think that we'll always look. But, I think that right now the big blocks, so to speak, and the medium blocks are sort of on this team. And I think that we'll, we'll make, we'll be able to make moves in season. We'll be able to be opportunistic as things come up, with, last year we had, Tyson Miller or Lopez or things like that. But no, my expectation is that, the group we have now is really close to what we're going to go forward with.
All right. They are going to let Matt Shaw cook at third is what I get there. But the one that I heard in the middle is what you really need to focus on when you're talking about where they pivot. Because I know a lot of people think the money's going directly into the Ricketts pocket. It won't be spent. Like what Gary was saying in the super chat. Thanks for the super chat, by the way, Gary. That their team cap is actually dropping down below, and they're not going to go near it. They don't want to go near it, even though previously they've said if they're close and they're in it and they feel like they've got a contender, they'll blow past it. The key is he's talking about in season. To me, that means you can forget any dreams of who we were trying to think of. Okay, where do they go at? Justin Turner may be an option. We'll talk about him in a second. The other name that keeps popping up and has been all spring was the Cardinals are desperate to dump Nolan Arenado. Could he do the same things for you that Alex Brgman might have done, in that he would spell and give you a little time with Matt Shaw? Shaw could ease into the majors a little bit more, and he could play third base. There's been rumors that he's been willing to play first base, so you wouldn't have to get a backup at first if you could get him to play first and third, and kind of ease Shaw in. But what I hear Jed Hoyer say, the big chips are off there, then I'm saying to myself, well, now wait a minute. When you look at what Arenado has left, which is what, three years, $64 million, the Cardinals already have said no back last month in January to taking on $20 million of that, right, to try and help teams. So I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, what if it was $44 million for 3 years and you're talking about an AAV of 14.5, $15 million? Is that a little more attractive to the Cubs in that you wouldn't have to give up as much as a prospect? They're eating a little money. He can help ease into it. He could have a bounce-back season. Well, the answer is no, because it sounds to me like Jed Hoyer saying, we're not adding $14.5 million right now before the season. That would be a medium or big block.
Mm-hmm.
But it does open up the fact for the money is in the bank right now. And you still have the pieces or the collateral to go make a Bregman type move, or bigger, or whatever, maybe in a different scenario during the season. I don't hate this. I hate the overall idea
optics.
That I hate the optics and the overall plan from the organization that they aren't willing to be, the Dodgers, the Mets, and if they say that that's it, that's it. So the rules we're living in are, this is what they're willing to spend. Living by those rules, so the world that Jed Hoyer is living in right now, I'm okay with not paying Bregman $28.5. I'm also okay with holding off on the trade market and seeing what I actually need right now, right? So I'm okay with, instead of pivoting right away to a deal like Arenado or something like that, I'm willing to say, let's see if Shaw makes this work.
Yeah.
Right? Let's see if he makes it work, because we might need pitching at the trade deadline. We might need another closer. We might need another starting pitcher, a front line guy, Cease or whoever. We can talk about him in a second. But we might need those things more than we actually need this third baseman, because if Shaw's the guy we think he is, our top prospect, then we're okay at third and we're saving money there. I'm curious how much PTSD the Cubs have. And there's clearly some, based on the fact that they were willing to go 28.5 on Bregman for 3 years with opt-outs. Curious how much PTSD they have from trying it with Morel last year. Right? Well, like they just gave a guy who has power in the major leagues and has shown you he can hit the minors, all that stuff. They gave him a shot at third. He couldn't do it. Yeah. Now, I think Shaw's a way better third baseman already, defensively. But Morel had shown you something at the major league level offensively.
He did.
So how much caution are they taking in a year where they know some jobs are on the line? Like, I think that was part of exploring the Bregman side of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like I said, adding Bregman would have increased the floor of the team.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And now they're in a situation where at this point at third base, you have Matt Shaw and John Birdie.
And Gage Workman.
Come on,
and
Luke.
Vidal Brujan.
Come on, Luke.
Nicky Lopez.
And Nicky Lopez.
He's the Cubs' John Jay.
Nicky Lopez probably cut now that he couldn't recruit Brgman.
No, I was staring at the remaining infielders on the free agent market on Spotrac this morning, and it was exhausting trying to decipher through and figure out who I would want the Cubs to go out there and get on a, as like a 1-year stopgap, or not even a stopgap,
right,
but just like an insurance policy.
Because
that's always been the thing. And like, this is why I was kind of high on them going to get Moncada, because I felt like that bounce back potential was there, and there wasn't a lot after him. Because we never believed in Bregman, right? But now Moncada's
he costs you way less than anybody else. He doesn't cost you prospects. He doesn't cost you anything.
Right. But like what? Jose Iglesias, I guess. Like, I don't know. This is why on one end of the spectrum I have concern, because what you just said about the Morel thing, like I have PTSD from that.
Right.
I'm as a big a believer as Matt Shaw as anyone. As many people in our YouTube chat who's probably getting mad at me for making it sound like I don't believe in him. I do believe in him. But we cannot sit here and act like he is going to, hit his peak in year one. We simply cannot do that. If he can be a 2.5 to 3 win player in 2025, awesome.
That would be 2.5, 3 improvement over what they had last year.
Yes, it would definitely be better. That's the only optimism that I'm really getting from it, is the fact that I do think that he will be better than what they had at third base all of last season. But as Theo Epstein once said, man, development isn't always linear, and I expect there to be struggles. I expect it to be a roller coaster. You know what I mean? So, of course, other guys on the team have to live up to what they have been doing on their baseball card, and I think they have enough depth that they can get by. And Shaw, I do believe that he can play third base defensively a lot better than Morel. I do believe that, but it just would have been nice to have a little bit of a better insurance policy. And right now we're rocking with John Birdie, and maybe like I've heard some people talk about Jonathan Long in the minors. Someone asked me about that in my TikTok live last night. It's a lot of just, well, if this happens, like I'm not saying hoping and wishing, because we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that, but like I think Shaw is a lot more projectable, right? So that's the only reason that I have concern. But
Sean, we got another super chat.
Can you not read it?
Well, there's some blue line. There was a blue line over the top.
I can read it. No, let's see.
I could have. I can. You want me to read it?
Give it a shot.
Bregman wasn't worth giving up the compensation draft pick for, in my opinion.
Well,
Corey, $5 super chat. Thanks for the super chat, Corey.
We're proud of you, Luke. That's why I was happy that the offer the Cubs sent was an opt-out after 2026. Right. You would have got him for 2 years, and it would have been in what is presumed as this winning window, because Happ's off the books in 26, Seya's off the books in 26, Tyone's off the books in 26, Horner's off the books in 26, theoretically, right?
There might not be baseball after 26.
Like they would have had a ton of financial flexibility after 2026. So that's why, especially if you're going to sign him and give up those 2 compensation picks, that's why giving him 2 years before that opt-out made sense to me. Obviously, it came down to money. And also, I think we should point out that he just rakes at Fenway Park. I read on Twitter that he had like a 1,200 OPS at Fenway Park.
Yeah, his batting average was like 375. Yeah. It was like 8 games or something, but something stupid.
So I'm sure
for Bregman's side of it, I mean, this was in my eyes, if I'm Bregman, this was a no-brainer.
Oh yeah,
no-brainer.
I think
I'm going to where the left field's past practically sitting at third base, and my numbers are going to go up. And in worst case scenario, I'm getting $40 million a year.
Exactly.
Why would he ever opt out of that, by the way? How good would he have to be to opt out of $40 million for the next 3 years?
Yeah.
ride that off into the sunset, man.
Very. I know Pat is joking here. Paul DeJong is available to play third base, crickets. As somebody who watched Paul DeJong play baseball in 2024,
local guy.
He's not a terrible option.
Yeah.
Local guy, very smart, understands launch angles and rockets, and very scientific.
Very smart. Yeah.
But he was pretty decent with the Royals at third base. 5 outs above average. Provides some pop with the bat. That's pretty much it. He's gonna probably hit for like a 200 average, but he might give you 20 homers. So he could be an all right veteran.
Could be. We could have Nicky Lopez and Paul DeJong on the Cubs team this year instead of Madrigal and.
Turns out Nicky Lopez wasn't a factor in the Bregman stuff. Huh? Yeah.
Anyways, all right, we'll get to more of this. I have some more thoughts on where they pivot to next, because there is eventually going to have to be a pivot, and maybe an answer is right here on the Cubs roster already. At least there are signs of that. But first, we have to get to another word from our sponsors. Introducing, fellas, Sam Adams American Light. It's crisp, it's clean, it's super easy to drink. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. Not so heavy. You don't want to have to feel full and bloated after 3 sips. I need room for the cinnamon rolls and the food. You know what I'm saying? Don't want to be bloated from my beer. Baseball's back, but it's always Sam season. Looking forward to Cactus League games with a few of these beauties coming out ice cold from the fridge. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light, available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21 and older. Please drink responsibly.
Wake up, Sam Adams. Go to the gym, Sam Adams. Eat lunch with a Sam Adams.
Sam Adams American Light.
Oh, yeah. All right. You can have a Sam Adams while you're on Game Time. If you're interested in helping Tom Ricketts break even, may I introduce you to going on Game Time and buying tickets to go to Wrigley Field. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I say what I said with sarcasm, but there is something about being able to just hop on the red line, get to the ballpark, and hop on Game Time. Get the ticket last second. You'll get the cheapest. That's the best value, but the cheapest way normally. I'm pondering driving down to Champaign on Saturday for Illinois. Michigan State's going to be a huge game. It's going to be a huge atmosphere. Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be there.
Oh, man. Wow.
I'm pondering.
Could Game be more time. Snow. I did see there could be more snow on Saturday. Yeah.
God, maybe not then. But
it's just something to monitor. That allows you to do it right up to the last minute, Game Time.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
don't jump on it yet.
If you live in Champaign, perhaps maybe that's what you should definitely be doing.
Wait out the weather, see what it's like.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. All right, so Game Time just makes it so much easier. Again, with Game Time Picks, they have the all-in pricing, which when that feature shows the total up front, so there's no surprise fees. As you all know, me and Luke both hate a bait and switch. That's why we love Game Time, because they don't do that, right? They have a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So, at Wrigley, we know how there's poles there. You don't want to sit behind a pole. That's a very useful feature. And they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Niren, by the way, in the live YouTube chat says the next 60 days are the dog days of Chicago Winners. I know. I was pleased to see that you were brushing off your car today on a TikTok video as opposed to riding the scooter without a helmet on slushy roads where cars are slipping.
I haven't rode the scooter in months.
So I was glad to see it in scooter here today in 19 degrees and slush.
I bet the e-bike ride would have been fun. But
listen, the bike lanes, we keep those bike lanes pristine here in Chicago.
It's too cold for that right now, man.
If you want to illegally ride your scooter in the bike lanes, those are clear right now. But I know the TikTok video, I did have me thinking, you're brushing it off, and I get it was a whole bit. I kept thinking to myself as I was watching it, so I know Cody is holding the phone, recording this with one hand, brushing the car off with the other hand, and talking to the camera. And I'm envisioning people walking their dogs going down the sidewalk going, what is this guy doing?
All I can say is, Luke,
you don't care.
That.
Yeah.
One, I don't care. Two, you got to be a real sicko to be in this industry. All right? You got to be a real sicko. And the video was inspired by like this other video that I saw because the person was going through they were living the dark days.
You put it on Instagram, right?
It was on Instagram.
Go to Cody's Instagram.
The dark days of the winter. And so it's like, the Wrigley Field's a mile away. I live in Chicago. Summertime skies is awesome.
This wasn't even bad, though. This was a few inches of snow. Let's all settle down.
It's cold, though. And so I'm just counting down the days to sunshine, being able to ride the bike here, save money on gas, you know? Anyway.
So what are the other options, right? Now that you have Shaw playing third base, it sounds like they're in. But we just heard Jed Hoyer say, yeah, back up at third base, back up at first base, maybe another outfielder, and maybe another arm of some kind. I saw, I think it was Megan Montemurro tweeted yesterday that Alexander Canario, a name that like we've just completely forgotten, is a guy who was taking ground balls at first base in Arizona. And you might read too much into this and say, OMG, they're trying to make him the automatic backup at first base, and this is a done deal, and that's what they're going to do. Or you could look at it and say, in reality, this is the smart move. Like, this is a guy who's shown power, didn't do a whole lot with his opportunity last year, and is trying to find a way to make it on this roster opening day. He doesn't have the upside of Contra in the outfield. He doesn't have the upside of Owen Casey, most likely, in the outfield. Yeah. But if he can be your backup at first base and he can be your backup in the outfield along with Seiya Suzuki, so now you have two outfielders that can go out there, that's a way this guy can try and find the roster. So I'm not reading too much into it, but let's just store it away as let's see if the guy can accomplish it. Now, it doesn't sound, that's not the easiest thing to do. Just go on and play first base. But there it is. So here's a guy trying to work on it. I didn't think Madrigal could even remotely play third base, and it turned out he was somewhat serviceable at third. Defensively. Sort of.
I can't talk. I'm sorry. Defensively, watching him play the outfield in that short stint last year, it felt like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so, like,
felt a little Seiya-ish.
I'm actually kind of glad they're trying to do that. Now, I'll say this. It's better than him just hanging out in Iowa, getting at bats every day.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you're increasing his value if there is some including him in a trade. If you can say, oh, we worked him out at first base, he's serviceable at first base.
Do we think he could be better than Patrick Wisdom? We don't know.
I don't trust his as a bat. I don't trust his home run power as much as I trusted Wisdom. Now, it was a lot of home runs and strikeouts, but
I trust the home run power. I've seen him hit a couple out there, right?
He has.
I think he has the power. I think what he's lacking is just he's not a proven commodity. So there is that risk. We say this all the time. I just went on a whole tangent in the last segment about how I have concerns about third base. That's starting third baseman. We're talking about a bench option / platoon at first base with Michael Busch here. We talked about Justin Turner the other day.
We've talked about Rizzo, who's still on the market.
Right. If they want to give, if they believe in Alexander Canario as a bat, and this is how they feel like they can get him more opportunities to hit and actually be on the 26-man and be an offensive threat on this team, that's the only way that I feel like they'll be able to do it. Also, like a month or two ago, don't you remember me saying like a tinfoil hat theory that maybe they would try and do that?
Yes.
I wish I could find the episode so I could put it out there on the internet. Can't find it because I don't remember which one it was. But the point is I like the idea of it. We just don't know how it will work out. It's almost similar to Shaw, except for the fact that he will be in a bench role. It won't be as a starting position player. Now, if Busch struggles and he actually hits well, then it'd be a huge development. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they're both awesome, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. But if he based off watching him play defense in the outfield, I mean, how much harder can it be for him to transition to first base when he's not going to be a guy that I'll feel comfortable playing corner outfield for the Cubs over the guys that they already have.
Right.
So if this is a way for him to get at bats, then great. Like, because I think a lot of fans, not only just me and you, we forgot about him, you know?
I wasn't even sure he was still in the organization. He was talked about so little.
Right. But this was a guy who came back in the Chris Bryant trade, and he's still here, and they haven't traded him for anything. They didn't trade him away like they traded Mervis, just trying to get something for him.
Who's more likely to make this roster, Killian or Canario?
Canario, because they have bench opportunities here. Killian,
those are the two guys in the Bryant deal, right?
Right. That doesn't mean that I don't feel any different about Killian. I do think Killian has a bigger role in this team down the road if he can just stay healthy and stop walking people. But to me, it's pretty clear that unless a huge development in the spring happens, kind of like what we saw at the beginning of the spring last year before he got hurt, I think most of us all think he's going to start the year in Iowa. Canario is a different scenario here because you don't have Patrick Wisdom on the roster anymore. There's opportunities on this bench.
I'm starting to, I don't know what the number is, but I would start to think that maybe Justin Turner becomes more likely.
Yeah.
Unless for some reason he's more than they want to pay for that, but like,
which would be
you're not going to play him a ton at third, but it gives you a little extra insurance along. He's 40.
Yeah.
But he gives you a right-handed bat at first base
DH.
To go with your left-handed starting first baseman. And over at third, he gives you, what has he played, 90 games there?
90 innings.
In the last 90 innings in the last like 2 or 3 years.
2 years.
So not a lot, but you could play him a game or two over at third base and not be like, what a total disaster. Yeah.
It'd probably be more.
He gives you a little flexibility both ways. He could be a DH sometimes if Seiya's moved to the outfield and Tucker needs a day off, or if Tucker, knock on wood, is injured and Seiya's back in right field. All of those things.
Knock on all that
but
wood.
I could see him sort of being that pivot option right now. Tony Gill asked me about Rizzo, and I was like, well, here's the deal with Rizzo is this. It's sort of I think it's just an ego thing, don't you? Like, wouldn't it be very difficult for Anthony Rizzo to swallow his pride? Probably didn't love the way he left, just based on he loved coming back last year with the Yankees, but would have loved to have been a Cub for life, would have loved to have had that deal and been here. Now he's going to come back with his tail between his legs and be like, I'm ready to finish it out and be your backup first baseman / DH. I don't think it's very likely. He's also left-handed, just like your starter. I'd like to have a righty-lefty thing if I can.
That's the big reason why I don't think he would do it. But related to the ego thing, let's just remember that Albert Pujols came back to the Cardinals and was in a bench role. Like
I don't know. I don't know that Rizzo's quite declined to that level, but listen, I'm not saying 0% chance to anybody out there. Yeah. He's still on it. The flip side of that is if you're looking for a backup first baseman and Tony Rizzo is willing to take a super, super friendly deal and willing to be a backup and maybe some DH sometimes, you could have worse guys come back to the team, be great in your community, and retire as a Cub. What's the flip side of this? We don't know what his other offers are, but if his other offers are going to play in Pittsburgh and Miami and getting a little more playing time, does that really interest him? I don't know.
He's interested in getting traded at the deadline.
Right. And also as I thought about the pivot options. So Turner, if you want to throw Rizzo in the mix, is Canario just a legit backup at one of those? Can Birdie or one of those guys start to play these positions? You feel comfortable there. Okay, all of those are options, right? Because they're telling us it's not going to be a big deal now. But Jed's comment was, and in season. It still allows us to do something in season. Pivetta signs with the Padres. 3 years. $55 million, I believe. Does that make it even more likely that at the trade deadline, Cease and or King go? I'm not saying now because he's just told us I'm not looking at adding big payroll right now. but you might find out that your starters aren't as good as you think they are.
Yeah.
Right? And what you actually need is that super frontline guy, Dylan Cease, maybe, as you push your way through the division and into the postseason. So if it is Cease, and that's the guy you're after, there's multiple things you can do. Number one, not getting Bregman means you're not trading Nico Hoerner right now, which would have been, for two reasons, not a great idea right now. One, we don't know how healthy he is. So that's already lowered some of his value. Number two, if you sign Bregman to $28.5 million, teams know that you're desperate to unload Nico Hoerner. You're not only unloading him injured, you're unloading him when they know you're up against what you are putting a cap on yourself. Why not ride it out through the season? Let Nico have a good season if you are indeed going to eventually move on from him. And if that's what it takes to get Cease for the push over the end, you've increased the value of Nico. You've realized what you actually need to get it done, because then you'll also have an answer somewhat on what Shaw can and cannot do over at third base, right?
Yeah.
And it still leaves you way more flexibility, whether it's a pipe dream or not, to try and sign Tucker to a multi-massive deal in the offseason. That's the smaller part of it. I'm just saying, if they're saying, when he's pointing out mid-season trades, it is likely that pitching will be the bigger need later in the season. And your assets hopefully will have appreciated some.
My concern with this direction, if that is the case, if they are not going to talk trade, if they're not
going to make a big trade now for King or Cease.
Yeah, if they're out on Cease or any of these guys that they've been in the rumor mill all offseason, whether it's with the Padres, whether it's with the Mariners, whether it's with the Twins, whether, a name out there that we don't even know about, right? If they're done with that right now, the concern I have is that what if the Padres are in it at the end of July?
Yeah.
Right? I don't personally.
The Mariners are in it.
I don't personally think they will be at this point, because they've done nothing outside of signing Pivetta. But that you look at their roster and you're like, yeah, they should be good. What projections? Right? Projections on Picoto last week were around 82, 83 wins.
83.
They added a pitcher today or yesterday who's solid, right? Like they perhaps they're better than that. If Tatis is healthy, perhaps they surpass that projection, right? So I have concern with that. My thing about the Padres that I'm just so confused is they've been trying to shed payroll all offseason, but then just added to their payroll yesterday. So if Jed's telling us that he's not doing that, does that mean is he, first off, is he lying? Or second off, are the Padres lying to us? Or are they going to make a trade with someone else for Cease?
Yeah, are they signing Pivetta to set themselves up? That's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
Like when they sign him for this deal and they have a surplus of pitchers, are they setting themselves up so they can make that deal, whether it be now to a team that's desperate for starting pitching, or are they willing to ride it out for part of the season, see where they're at, and then they make that deal? Yeah. Either way, I think Pivetta's a move towards trading one of those guys eventually.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like if Dylan Cease is going to be a Cub, it's going to be before opening day. I don't feel like he'll be a Cub if we're talking in July. I could certainly be wrong. Could completely be reading this completely wrong. I mean, do we think that we read everything wrong about Bregman? I mean, the whole increase of AAV just came out of nowhere last night, right? So
I didn't see it getting that high.
Right. And I even listened to Section 10, which is Jared Carrabis' Red Sox podcast. Huge Red Sox podcast. Those guys, Jared Carrabis literally said 1% chance before what happened yesterday, before like the development of adding money to the thing. He gave them a 1% chance to get Bregman. So when that development happens, that's how a deal gets done. Are the Cubs willing to go that extra mile to get a trade done for 1 year of Dylan Cease? I at this point, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They have plenty of space. They could add him. They could add Cease now and not even trade Nico. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The trade for Cease, hypothetically, we could throw in Assad and Alcantara. That would be like what I would ideally want to happen. But I'm sure that the Padres would rather have Casey because he's a former prospect of theirs. Does Jed want to move Owen Casey? He didn't want to move Owen Casey for Jesus Luzardo 2 months ago, which is fine.
Which guy's playing better this season at AAA?
Right. So I just wish I knew all the answers to these questions, but I don't see Dylan Cease being on the Padres on opening day, but I also don't know where he'll be. So it's gonna be fascinating to watch play out. All I know is that the Cubs can't sit on their hands the rest of the spring. They got to add a Justin Turner. They got to add some. But
I would still count that as a smaller to.
Mm-hmm.
He even kind of knocked the mid chips off, so that scares me a little bit that they're pretty much done. Does it mean the only money that gets spent now? Is there anybody else out there that floats your boat? We've still said Robertson.
Yeah.
Right, like something. At least add some small pieces to the bullpen. Some more. Keep adding to that bullpen.
I mean, we already looked at it though. It's like it's loaded with names.
It's a bit of a numbers crunch.
I feel like if the one thing this team for sure needs, if we're gonna go with Shaw at third base, which I'm completely for and I completely support, is that getting that top end starting pitcher. That's the only thing that I'm like, that's what we need. Because I like Steele and I like Shota. I think those guys are awesome, but they need another guy at the top there that can get more whiffs. And that's what a guy like Dylan Cease does. Is there another name out there? I don't think so. Who knows? But some form of that I feel like they need. And if they don't get that, I feel comfortable with the rotation for half the season, but I don't know if I'll feel comfortable about it for the full season. I hope and pray that you get the same type of results as you did last year with the starting rotation because it was awesome. But I do have concerns with it.
If Cease is not traded and he is available at the trade deadline, sweet. And you would have an answer on what is Boyd going to give me this year? Which guy is Boyd going to be? Is he going to be a top 3 guy that we hope he is? And is he going to exceed projections? Is Cade Horton going to exceed projections when he gets his shot? Is Ben Brown going to exceed projections when he gets his shot? They're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit after missing out on Bregman, but the way it's unfolded isn't the worst. I would say, again,
Jordan Wicks too.
Jordan Wicks, all those guys. So you have some opportunities to see either A, what those guys are or what they are not, and hopefully some of there's more there than what some people might think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, by the way, did you see PCA's hair? Have you seen his hair? Last year he showed up with the blue dew, right? Like he just dyed his hair all blue, and we said, this guy's got a hit. Now the Cubs have put out, he's got stars on his head. Stars, blue stars. Now that's bold.
This is a normal thing for me at this point. After meeting
PCA's hair, he's the Dennis Rodman of the future.
Yeah, like he after meeting him, just talking to him, like that's just the kind of guy he is. So
what's next?
Well, he showed up to Cubs convention looking like Eminem.
That's right.
So
yeah.
Now he looks like Eminem but with blue stars in his hair.
Blue stars. Isn't that
I think that just kind of describes PCA's personality, but also like you got like did you just say that you got to be real bold to do something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I think have a great personality, just be fun.
I think that's like that's a confidence. That's a confidence. He's not afraid of the cameras, all that stuff.
Not afraid of the spotlight and the cameras, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, I like it. And we got 7 minutes here. I can shift to a more positive outlook here. And I know a lot of the show I've probably come off as like kind of negative. I hate that I'm doing that, but I'm just voicing my concerns. But PCA is one of those guys. They're going to need to, I don't know about exceed projections, but they're going to need him to take a step forward this coming season, which I think he can, and I'm optimistic about, and I'm really excited about his 2025. So You know.
Man, have they sucked us into saying exceed projections over and over.
PTSD.
It's their words.
Oh, God.
It's their words. But that is where you're – I do believe that they've sort of kicked the can a little bit now that Bregman's off there. And I think Bregman was sort of the that didn't go well with Morrell. We better have a backup plan. Let's see if we can thread the needle on this. In reality, I don't know that their offer was any better than third, but they did make a play. And in Jed Hoyer's defense, that's probably the best play he could have made.
It was
28-5
yeah.
Because that still would have meant dealing Nico Horner. And in reality, getting stuck with Bregman with the opt-outs potentially at third if he's not that guy. Now Shaw has to move over to second base, which is okay, but now you still have those same questions at second base about the offense.
Yeah, but you have a player with a higher floor at third base.
But defensively, probably not as good as Nico Horner at second base.
Probably
I'm just saying,
yeah.
Nico Horner has some value.
Yeah.
Let's not.
No, I agree.
I'm always disappointed that he's not a 15 to 20 homer guy.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of teams would want Nico Horner healthy on their team.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the right fit on a lot of teams.
I promise you, I'd rather be talking about that scenario than the one we're talking about today. That's as
you had bought into the Bregman stuff. You had finally decided, yep, we better get him.
I had bought in because everything happened that I thought would happen. We'd be sitting here in mid-February wondering when he was going to sign. He was never going to go. If he didn't take that 6-year deal with the Tigers, he was never going to go to Detroit. And I don't think he really would have gone to Boston if they didn't increase that AAV. Deferrals or not.
Which I've seen people say with the deferrals, it's roughly $5 million different than what each year, different than what the Cubs were offering.
Yeah.
Okay, $5 million. Should they have gone another $5 to go get him? I think the offer, personally, I think the offer they made
was the only
for that
offer.
Player was as high as they needed to go.
Yeah, they offered.
And so I don't disagree with them.
Yeah. I don't disagree on Jed. Like I can't.
Correct.
Like I said, I cannot.
Now, if you want to tell the
this.
ownership, we saw Bruce Levine tweeted that Hoyer said he had many texts and conversations and emails about the money of it with Tom Ricketts. Okay, so there you have it. That he doesn't want to do deferrals. That's a Ricketts decision. They're not big on deferrals, but I think that's from ownership. He doesn't want to do deferrals, and he didn't want to go too far into the luxury tax now. That's sure the way it sounds, right? And for Alex Brgman. Now, I wish, as we all have said, okay, well, if you were willing to go this close with Bregman, why not just blow through it and go for Soto back in the day?
Yeah.
Or whoever, Judge, whatever the play might be.
As we close, like, this is just more like frustration with ownership that we have. I'm not sitting here asking the Cubs to spend $500 million every offseason, Luke. I'm asking them to just, stop slapping us fans in the face, dude. One of the more expensive experiences in all of baseball. We got the Cubs salespeople calling Carm 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months. They've called me 3 or 4 times.
Begging a Sox fan to buy season tickets.
They're calling me 3 or 4 times the last 3-4 years. They've lowered the season ticket package from all 81 home games to 20 because they're desperate for people to show up. And that's not true. They're not desperate for people to show up because Wrigley Field is a tourist attraction, no matter what anyone wants to think. So people are going to show up no matter what, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Let's just be honest about it, right? I'm really just doing everything to make Godfather nod his head yes right now, I'm sure. And so with all those things, it's just why can't we just? Why do we have to put this cap on ourselves, man? If we were a true mid-market team or something like that, I would not be this frustrated with ownership. But you are a big market team, and they
excuse me.
They should be at the luxury tax at going into opening day. And then based off what these comments and stuff, Sounds like we're not going to. Now, if you spend that money, if that means maybe that money goes to Kyle Tucker, okay, great. But
I'll forget all about Alex Brgman if you sign Tucker to a long-term deal.
Until that happens, like it reinforces anyone's concerns about the Cubs giving that long-term extension to Kyle Tucker, and this whole philosophy about deferrals certainly makes me uneasy about getting that contract extension done with Kyle Tucker in season, at the end of the season, in December. It certainly makes me feel uneasy, and it just should not be this way. That's the full-on point, man. It should not be this way.
What did Mr. Mohawk Tommy just say? Because I think I agreed with it when I saw it in the live YouTube chat. He said, they made a more than fair offer to Bregman. No way he is worth $40 million a year. Shaw's more than ready to give the Cubs a quality player, possible rookie of the year. Let's go Cubs. Yeah. That's the positive outlook you got to take on it. And they still have the money. If you want to go on the bright side of the storm from yesterday, look at it like this.
I agree.
They saved the money. It's still there to be used, hopefully, when the time is right for the right piece, whether that's pitching or batting or hitting and whatever you want to call it.
To play for the Cubs.
To play for the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
That money is still there, and now we get to see Shaw. Now we get to see what their best prospect is really like this season moving forward. By the way, a great time to sign up to be a diehard because there's still so many questions going up about this team.
I'll be in the Discord. I'll be in the Discord later today.
Discord, you get the discounts. You get the discounts on the merch. You get the free shirt right now. All of those things are out there. Last thing I want to ask you real quick, and I know this is not a fully baked idea for you. Bregman's not coming. What grade right now would you give this Cubs offseason?
A B+.
But I do feel like it's better than a C.
Yeah, it's way better than a C.
Tucker ensured that it was going to be better than a C. And they've added some starters. They've added some bullpen help. It's maybe not the offseason you dreamed of, but they've added a superstar.
They've added more certainty. As much as I sat here this last hour and talked a lot about questions, concerns, because you don't know what you're going to get out of Matt Shaw and this and that, there is more certainty on the team. There is more projectability. There's my optimistic outlook, is I think that they have more depth and they have more certainty on the roster. So I guess the good news also is
we're all going to die someday. Isn't that what you usually say?
That's always the good news is always that, yes.
Yeah.
But the other good news is that now we don't have to talk about Alex Brgman for the rest of the spring.
Well, maybe next week, but not too much.
Well, and then also people online don't have to get mad about us asking about Alex Brgman, even though we weren't the ones who asked about Alex Brgman to Jed whenever he showed up to spring training.
Sort of hoping he tanks with Boston, to be honest with you.
Cody, Corey is wondering about Friday 120 clubs. Is that just every Cubs game?
It's every Friday home game this year.
Go. So we do have them scheduled.
The home opener.
Lock it in.
We'll be there for the home opener this year. So
bring your sign. Bregman's a bum. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Corey and Brendan have a podcast for you at 1:30 coming up tomorrow. I'm sure they'll have more to say about the Bregman decision to go to Boston. Until then, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. Thumbs up. W.
We all silly like the mayor.